I keep you waiting?
No, I mean, yeah, but
Okay.
I'm chill about that. I
Thanks
mean,
for being chill.
no, I mean, I was just whoring. I was looking at reels, so it's not like I was
Ah.
pressed about
Well, that's what I was doing. And I didn't
it.
see like your notification for some reason.
I swear
Probably.
Instagram's glitchy at the moment with so much. It keeps
Oh,
flagging me just for like, it flagged me just for liking your story the other day. It was like
that's
remove,
so
it's like
weird.
we've removed your like from this. And then the other day I sent actually it's mainly been with you. Maybe we interact so much that the thing is just like watching. But I'm like, isn't this what social media exists for? They must have updated
That's
something.
maybe it's us. They want to keep us apart.
They do. It's
The
just too
IG
much
tribes.
cloaca realness.
Yeah, they can't handle this. It's okay. We will
Oh.
prevail. We will prevail. Well, welcome everyone to the show. This show is called Of the Publishing Persuasion. If you are a first time listener, thank you. Thank you
Could
for joining
happen.
us. It could happen actually. So thank
Mhm.
you. We really appreciate it. Melanie will send you $5 for joining. Uh,
I have no reply to that, but I am amused. I will send you
she is
five
amused.
air kisses.
Hey, that's a good deal. 5 air kisses for listening to the
Yeah,
show. Yeah, I think that's
exactly.
good. Well, yeah, thank you for listening. Air kisses to you. I'm Angela Montoya, author of do we need to introduce ourselves, do you think?
I think I think why not? Because
Okay,
every time, if it is a new listener, every time you're promoting your book.
that's true.
Why
If there is a new listener,
not?
I've probably lost them at this point. They've probably already.
What's funny is that this is going to be a short, like, because I just left the other link, which was already open. It's going to be a short episode, and we're literally like just having the most chaotic intro ever.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Why don't
I'm
you go
Angela Montoya.
50-50? Do it sometimes and do it and leave it other times.
Okay. Is that a
First of
hint?
all, if you're taking so long to do it, I want to clear my name because,
Okay.
like maybe I just had one good metaphor in me today. And I can't stop thinking about how bad my second metaphor is. But hear me out. Have you
Okay.
been watching The Boyfriendo on Netflix?
I haven't. I have not.
Oh,
I know it looks really cute.
okay. Here's the thing.
Okay.
Because yeah, as I said it, I was like, oh, this is one of those things that without nuance, yes, I do not. Because basically, listeners, my metaphor, which I'll have to delete it for my peace of mind if I don't over explain it right now, basically was about having like a partner. That publishing was like a partner that like needed some work, you know? And then
Yes.
obviously to which the girls were like, except if it's toxic, red flags, walk away. And I 100% agree. Something I've been thinking about lately though is nuance with all of these things. And yeah, I think it's the nuance of it all. Because in that moment, what I couldn't convey in that argument is so I've been watching this show, The Boyfriend, right? And there's this character who's basically, well, he's not a character, he's a real person.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna ask. It's reality
It's
TV, right?
reality TV.
Okay.
And it feels like real, like season one realness, randoms that like aren't really into social media and stuff realness, you know? You can only capture
Hmm.
that the first time round
Yeah.
before people want to further their careers and stuff.
Yes.
Anyway, he is a petulant little brat. Like there's no other
Oh.
way to say it. And at the start, I was so mad with how he was treating one of the other guys. So it's a queer, like it's a bunch of guys in a house and they're like trying to find a boyfriend. It's so beautiful. Please come watch it. Anyway, I was watching him and like, yes, he was giving red flags. Yes, at the start, I was like, how fucking dare you, rah, rah, rah. But once you heard his backstory and what he was dealing with and the lack of any positive influences, and once you saw um how he was receptive to help and advice from the other men in the house, I was like, sometimes we expect people to like come to us perfect. And I hear this a lot of people looking for relationships. And like when I met my husband, he was a stoner failing all his classes in college, like it's
Yeah.
not like he had a pretty perfect bow around him. So that's kind of what I was meaning, the nuance of that. Sometimes it's a stoner failing their classes, but like if you can see the goodness of someone and like the work, not that I cared about that anyway. That was very appealing to me at that point.
That is a sexy stoner over
Yeah.
there.
But with this
Yes.
Shun guy, yes, he actually had red flags. But when it was addressed face on and like the relationship was put on the line, like I'm not going to put up with this. I think that's the important part. Like the I'm not going to let you hurt me continuously. Because yeah, otherwise it's red flags. But so when you get to my metaphor, dear listeners, understand the nuance. Please understand the nuance.
We we got it, Melanie. We got it. Abigail and I understood what you were saying. We understood the nuance.
No, because
But
I'm
it's
very
true.
against people staying
Yes.
like if they're being hurt by toxic narcissists and all that. Like, yes, So I just had to clear that
Yes.
up.
Yes. Well, I appreciate you clearing that up. Listeners, Melanie is not about that life. We know this about you, Melanie.
Yeah.
We know how you
I
feel.
know. My
But
neurospicy
yeah.
brain wouldn't let it go. I was just like, this is like such a complicated topic. But yeah, like I also am a big believer in like we're all constantly growing and like you can't expect another fellow human to somehow tick every million little box you had. Like you grow
Mm-hmm.
together. And I think as
Yeah.
long as someone's willing to grow with you, that was where the metaphor was coming from. Like sometimes you get a petulant brat, sometimes you get some like there's the negatives of every person, and if you like give it a bit of water, it grows.
Yes. 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 No, I love this conversation because it's true. Like we just I think especially because of social media now, you just expect
Mm,
everybody to be perfect and to know everything and to
yeah.
do everything right. But that is not real life.
That
That
is
is
not
not
real
happening.
life. We are all flawed. A lot of us came from like even more flawed people who never had a day
Yeah.
of therapy and who were just raw dogging it through life with like just and their generation before were probably even worse. Like that's the thing. Like everybody's like kind of fumbling their way through it. And I think for
Yeah.
me now, because yeah, I've been meditating this a lot, obviously. Like I think for me now it comes to is that desire there to grow and change? And I feel like I can catch it instantly. Like people can like do something hurtful, but if they see it hurt you, there's people who don't care and they just carry on in their own little world. And there's people who immediately want to check that and they're like, how can I like be a good friend to you? How can I whatever like fix this? But like, yeah,
Yes.
everybody's got their traumas that they're dealing with and whatever. And yeah, for me, that's what it is. But obviously, that's a very long-winded side quest to what I was comparing it to, which was publishing, which let's be real, sometimes probably is a toxic boyfriend.
Yes. I think you can absolutely get away with calling publishing a toxic boyfriend. That bitch is toxic.
Yeah,
But here we are.
here we are learning to navigate it ourselves.
Yes. Yes. We
But
are
before I
ignoring
go,
the red flags. We're just going right through.
so many red flags about publishing. But you know what's
Yeah.
not a red flag? You
What?
going to Comic Con.
Yes. Major, major green flag. Yeah, Comic-Con was it was wild. Let me just break it down. No, I was a nervous wreck right from the moment I woke up that morning because
Aw.
I was more nervous about getting there and getting there on time than anything.
It
I
is
just because I
stressful. Having
yeah,
to fly you there and back in one day is a lot. I was
it was a
surprised.
lot. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what my biggest stress was that whole
Yeah.
morning was like once I land in San
Mm,
Diego, how long is it going to take me to get from the airport to Comic-Con and
mm,
find
mm.
my way through Comic-Con?
No.
Um, so that was the biggest stressor for me. So like I had my little breakfast at the
Mm,
airport and then my stomach instantly was like, ugh! I didn't have any accidents.
Yes.
But I
So
did bring
sad.
Tums. Yes, I brought Tums with me, so
Okay.
I was
I
popping
don't know
some
what
Tums.
Tums are.
It's like
Mylanta?
yeah, it's like a tummy, helps your
Yeah.
tummy. Helps
Mm.
your little Tums, Tums. So I got there, we whizzed right to Comic-Con. It was really close to the airport. And my Lyft driver was a budding writer, and so we were just talking about that. He's a sci-fi, like he's been working on a book, so we were just chit-chatting all about that. Shout out Kevin. Um
Yeah,
and so
Kevin.
yeah, so he was just like, because I was telling him, oh, I'm kind of nervous about this, and
Mm.
he was like, well, maybe this is a sign to remind you, like, look at how far you've come, because here I
Mm.
am, and I was like, okay, Kevin, thank you. Thank you.
Being Kevin Queen Slay realness.
Yes. Kevin got me right after that. And he was like, good luck. You got this. So I was like, thanks, Kevin. But as soon as like I got out the car and you just like you see thousands of people amassing, I think it was like 100,000 people like
Fuck.
in the area, just being there.
Yeah.
I might be exaggerating that, but that's what my other
Yeah.
Lyft driver told me. Okay,
Yeah.
so anyway, so I get there and I'm walking, I'm instantly sweating because here I am like, okay, now here's the hard part. How do
Mm.
I get in? Where do I go? And
Mm.
basically all I did was I just kept asking everybody. Like, because people
Yeah.
are so nice that, it's like when it's a nerdy crew of just people
Yeah.
who love comic books and movies and,
Yeah.
like they just love stories. And
Mm.
so I didn't like, I felt like, okay, these are my people. So
Yeah.
anybody that looked like they kind of knew, like they'd been there before, I said, can you tell me where this thing is? So at every single step in my, treasure hunt to finding my way, I would just ask another person.
Yeah.
And I
Good.
got there with 20 minutes to spare. I was early and met my publicist Madison, who's amazing. But
That's so
my
cool.
gosh, yeah, she was like leading me away, like leading me to where the things were.
I didn't know
Yeah,
you had a publicist.
I
Sorry. I wish
do.
to hear more about that once you finish the story.
Okay, yes, her name is Madison Fur. She works for Penguin, uh, Random House.
Yes.
Anyway, so but yeah, like she said, meet me at the Random House or the Penguin Random
Mm.
House booth, which is downstairs in this huge area full of 1,000 billion booths. It's so intense. As
Shit.
soon as I like came down the escalator, I was like, holy fuck, like how do I find this?
Mm.
But it was well numbered. So I found it. But there's
Mm.
so many people there. It was nuts. It was so cool though, because everybody was dressed up
Yeah.
and there's just so many neat artists and
Mm.
like people selling all like just so many cool things to look at.
Yeah.
But then yeah, she escorted me to my panel and to the panel. And I got to be on this panel with like the most amazing authors, and they're so smart and they had so many amazing things to say. And it was just really, really cool. It was I at very beginning, my little heart, I thought, uh-oh, like I might have a heart attack at this very
Mm.
moment. She was
You have
thump,
chest
thump,
pain.
thumping. Yeah, I was like, oh
Yeah.
no, uh-oh, why did I sign up for this?
It's scary.
Your brain instantly just like goes right into like being an asshole.
Oh, it's fight or
Right away.
flight. It's like
Yeah.
it's literally telling you to run from that, like as if it's a mountain lion about to pounce on you. Like
Yes.
that's the shitty thing about being a human is like when that fight or flight triggers, it's not nice and
Yeah.
you kind of got to wait for it to like even out or like hopefully some
Yeah.
deep
No, for real.
breaths.
That's what, yeah, for real though. Like
Yeah.
yeah, I think because my heart rate was so high, my brain was automatically like, you don't belong here. You need to get up. Like,
Uh,
you're not gonna do good. Like, you're gonna embarrass yourself. And I just kept having to be like, no, like, bitch, you're fine. We're here. Like, it's too late now.
good.
What am I gonna do? So yeah, the panel went really well, and And it was cool to see people that I had known from, social media were in the audience.
Oh,
And yeah, so it was really cool. And then right after the panel, we did a signing. And um it was all the authors that were on the panel. So like these big dog authors, like these big baddies, and
and
me.
you
Yeah.
obviously exactly where you belong, my friend.
Sure. Yeah, we'll go with that. And then but the line for um our signing, like it was in a like a corral, like they were like
Yeah.
lined up. And so for the entire hour, and they had to stop letting people line up, I guess, at a certain point.
Wow.
So I signed a bunch of books and got to chat with a bunch of like new readers that had never heard of me until that panel. So that part was really cool. It was just like so many, which maybe is kind of sad, but so many were like, I've never heard of you.
It's
And
good.
I was like, woo, well, here I am. Thank you. And but I they bought the book, so
Mhm.
I had went there and I did what I was there to do, which was sell
Yes.
myself in the book and tell people about Sinner's Isle. And
Mm.
yeah. So after that, I walked around in the chaos and just took everything in. I thought, oh, I should buy things. But then
Mm.
I got too overwhelmed because it's so much.
Yeah.
And and I didn't want to wait in lines, to be honest.
Fair.
Um, so then I just went out and I walked around like
Yeah.
the outside area and took in the sights and like ate food.
Mm.
And then I went to the airport right after
Yeah.
that and
Good
like
girl.
had a beer at the airport,
That
and it was
sounds
glorious.
perfect, my friend. Because that's
Yeah.
like such a massive hit. Like, even just, flying there and back, even just going to Comic Con, even just doing the panel, even just signing the books, any one of those things is high stimulus and outside of your usual schedule. So all of those
Yes.
things take so much. And yeah, like I feel like next time, like, would you prefer to overnight? Did it suit you better this, or was this just how it was scheduled?
It was just how it was scheduled. Like,
I would ask next time because like
yeah.
that's fucking hectic to have to go step. Like, yeah, it sounds fabulous, but as I actually listen, like I would have just been so exhausted rocking up and overstimulated after. And what if the flight's late? Everything would be playing on your
Yeah.
mind, stressing out. Maybe just ask them next time for, you'd be surprised if you like a bit like a little, just put your big girl pants on and be a little bit pushy and just like, actually, I'd like to overnight, and then maybe two overnights would be best, I think, for something of that level. But
Yeah.
I
I
think you
would do it. I
handled
would
it
just
well.
stay there, like just as
Yeah,
because it's such a cool city.
yeah,
Just to
that's
stay there
it.
and like, yeah.
I think
It's
you might have to ask though, because sometimes, companies, they're always looking for a way to cost cut. But
yeah,
I
that
think
makes sense.
realistically, when you're going to be on the panel, it's a lot. You want to have like settled into your environment, and like the stress of finding it that day, like it's all so much. But it sounds like you
Yeah.
managed it well. I'm glad you did your thing and you left and like tried to conserve
Yes.
that bit of energy, because yeah, it was probably all used up. I say conserve,
Yeah.
it was probably all used up.
She was
Well,
gone. She was
yeah.
empty. And I was laughing to myself because on the way, like my Uber driver back to the
Mm.
airport, he was so chatty. He like,
No.
yeah, he was like, "Oh, you're leaving already? You didn't see all the sights of San Diego. Like, you got to see this, and that." I'm like, "Sir, please, sir, I
Can I tell
can't."
you a secret?
Yeah.
I do this all the time when I used to go in person for my therapy sessions. I'm sure it's the same over there. You can actually book a silent Uber. Because I naturally
Oh.
feel pressure to chat in social
Yes.
situations. Actually, Phil found it for me, and he was like, I was like, oh, is that even a thing? He's like, yeah, you can request a quiet Uber so the driver knows, please don't talk to me. Because otherwise you just can't help but feel that pressure. And like in my case, going to a therapy session, I was like, I'm just about to spill my guts. And in your case, going to an event, you might need that time to collect, decompress, maybe just check. Check if,
I
I'm
might.
sure the States will have that too, that you can request
I
a quiet Uber,
will.
because it's fucked. It's fucked if you're
Yeah.
like exhausted and then you're like, oh, I have to now chat. I don't want to seem rude and they're super chatty.
Yeah. That was me the whole time. I was like, oh yeah. Like I was just trying to yeah. And then let me add this part. Because then I was like, yeah, I'm just, I'm ready to get to the airport and maybe just have a beer. And he goes,
Yeah.
oh, well, the airport's under construction. So the terminal you're going to be in doesn't have anything. But the next terminal has a whole bar. You got to go. It's great. And I said, okay. He's all, would you like me to just drop you off at the next terminal? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, I guess. He's all, it's not that long of a walk back to the other one. It's like 2 city blocks. And I'm like, 2 city blocks? But I didn't say anything because I was like, oh, well, whatever. I've got whatever. And
I
so he
know in
dropped
the
me off.
heat of the moment, you're like,
And
I guess
it
that would
happened.
be okay.
Yeah. And it happened so fast where he's like, oh, here's your terminal. And I was like, oh, okay.
Uh.
And so I get to the second terminal, like terminal B or whatever. And I go in and I asked the security guard, I was like, can I come into this terminal? Because I showed him my ticket. He goes, you can't even be over here. Like, you got to go back to your terminal. And I was like, ah, crap. I said, well, is there like like, how do I get there? He's like, you got to just walk. And I said, oh
No.
no. I was already tired and I was already hot. And I was like, all right, fine. And so he's like, yeah, just walk down, the breezeway. He's
Fuck,
all,
the
yeah,
breezeway is the worst. Was it
yeah. And he
chilly?
goes, no, no, it was
Fuck you.
warm. It was like,
Fuck.
yeah, it was like very nice out. And so he was like, yeah, just keep walking. And then if you feel like you've gone too far, just know you haven't. Keep walking. I was like, oh, great. Like, freaking guy. So it actually
Oh.
wasn't that terrible of a walk. It wasn't long. Because I was expecting miles. I was expecting like I'm going on a trek, but it
I'd
wasn't
have
bad.
been salty as
Yeah.
fuck over that. You just wanted to put your feet up and have a
Yeah.
quiet beverage and nurse your freaking chest pain. And this motherfucker, cocky motherfucker, who didn't even fucking know, if he knew, he would know that you're not allowed to be there without the right ticket.
That's
Like,
what I was thinking.
hello, at least fact check your information, mate.
Yeah, he's just sending people to the wrong terminal here and there. Uh, and my terminal did have alcohol there.
I was gonna say, listen, as someone who worked in like that area for like, a few years, what I can tell you is one of the first things they will find a way, they will find a kiosk, they will find something to make money with alcohol and snacks. I was like, I don't care if they
Yes,
built that terminal yesterday. There's a fucking cart with snacks and alcohol because they know that they're gonna make a killing from it.
absolutely.
As
And
soon as
it
you
was right
said,
there.
oh,
It was
that's
right there. Right next to my gate. It was right there. And I thought, you
oh, and
fucker.
you could have been just there on your third beer. Instead, you like trekking it across the breezeway. And I have to ask, because of last episode, were you in Crocs or like did you have comfortable footwear for this mission?
I did. Yes, I wore my tennis shoes to Comic-Con
Okay,
because I
good.
knew I had been warned. And I'm so grateful because, yeah, it's a lot of
Yeah.
walking. But my little feet were tired by then. She had been
They
walking a
would
lot.
be, but that's it. Even when you have, sorry, my alarm. Even when you have like comfortable shoes on, just the sheer act of standing and walking all day, it still hurts other places, even if the shoes are serving.
Yeah, like my hips for some reason were really
Yeah,
tired the
yeah.
next day. I
No,
don't
I
know.
get that.
Oh, okay.
I get hip pain when I've walked too much. It's
I was thinking like
real.
maybe I need to start walking more because
You
these
do your
hips.
yoga, do your yoga
Yeah, I
to
need to
nourish
work
your
on that.
body again. But I wanted to
Yes.
come back to your imposter syndrome because
Mm-hmm.
here's the thing. It's funny to me, and I mean we all do it, so it's not that funny. But I mean, as your friend, I'm just like I couldn't think of a more like better person to be on that panel. And like let's not neglect the fact that we also had a major announcement from you recently. Your third fucking book. You're not like a little fresh zygote here. You 100% were a major cock flop for them to get on that panel. Like, I couldn't disagree more that you think you don't belong there or something because,
Yeah.
like, to me, that lineup just feels right. That feels like how did they get Angela Montoya?
Oh, I like the way your mind works. I
It's your
like that.
third book, my
Yeah.
darling. Like, what a fucking achievement. Like, that's not, there's no more chance or just luck at this point. There's a lot of fucking hard work
Hmm.
and you're doing
Yeah.
it. There's
I think,
imposter
yeah.
syndrome can take a back seat at this point because you've proven it wrong time and time again.
Isn't that interesting how it works though? Because
Mm.
it like you say it and I hear you and there's days where I'm like totally like, yes,
Yeah.
they're lucky to know this. But then even honestly, even today, I don't know where like my thought came up, but I was like, like maybe
Mm.
this is it. Like maybe this is the last book I do. Maybe like, maybe I should just probably call it in, call it quits. Like, I don't know why the brain continues to do it, even though I'm like, no, like you keep going, like you love this. But sometimes the brain is just, like I said earlier, is just a bitch.
Well, I think those mo like in contrast to that, I think the moments of like humility and awareness of how like fragile parts of it are, like because there's so much that's uncertain, it's probably the part of your brain that's like, what next? Like what like is it going to be immediate next time? Is it going to be year? Like there's no way to predict that side of things, but I think the way you've established yourself, you're not going anywhere. Like, even if it did, for some unknown reason, take longer to sell another book after that, or even if it was like whatever it is, I think you have like made a village. The village doesn't move anywhere, even if like something stops temporarily, like it's there.
Mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's natural. It's really like super, super natural. And I think like fighting through that imposter syndrome as many times as you do and still doing the thing is what makes the difference and is why,
Yeah.
you know, these
Yeah.
things
Yep.
happen for you and like that because you work for it.
Work hard, damn it.
You've
No,
worked
I
damn
mean,
hard.
yeah. Well, like you've even said before, it's like I think what sets a writer from an author or whatever the term is,
Mm,
like what sets us apart, like a budding writer to an author
mm,
is that determination, is that I'm not gonna
mm.
stop. And you simply not stopping is enough. That is the
Yes.
work. Because it's so
Yes.
easy to stop. It's hard to continue and put in the
Yeah.
work.
It is, and especially because of how long it can take. I think we need to just dissolve this idea of like, yeah, it does happen that people have like faster success, and I wish that for anyone. But I think like this could be wrong, but I feel like I remember reading somewhere like in terms of jobs and hours spent that a writer as a career was like at the top of the hours needed for study and
Mm,
whatever with doctors and stuff. Like the amount of time that you have to put in it to like get anywhere was up there
mm,
at the very top of the spectrum with something like a doctor where you study for 10 years before you can practice, right? It's something
yeah,
wild. I wonder if
that
we
feels
could
real
just like
though.
reframe it a bit because whilst it does happen that, people write the first thing and it sells, and that's great too. I love that for them. But like
Yeah.
what are we hear over and over and over on this podcast is it's a years long venture if you want to do it as a career. But like all of those people persevered and continue to educate themselves and continue to stand up again after the failures and stuff. And yeah, I do think that's the thing. That's the
Yeah.
thing. If you're asking like how do you do it, you just keep standing up until you get a yes. Like
Yes. Literally. Literally. You just keep going. But it feels so accurate that it would like accumulate to the same sort of hours as a
Yes, it
doctor.
does, doesn't
It
it?
feels, yes. And I think like even during all the querying and like the mentorship program and like all of the stuff,
Mm,
that all felt, because like every time you get a rejection and you think about things or you have somebody read your work, critique your work, you're learning each
yeah,
and every time, and your
exactly.
your skill set is changing. So you're basically like in writer college all throughout that time. And even now, like I said, we're like you said, I'm gonna have a
Mm,
third book,
third
but
book, baby.
Very big, thank you. But every single day, still learning a new
Yeah.
technique, a new trick, something. So we're just for us.
Yeah, we're us. We're
Constantly
doing the
learning.
thing. Now, I've got a few questions. Number one, can you tell our listeners who may have missed your glorious announcement about your third book that you've sold? Give us the pitch,
Yeah.
baby.
Oh, okay. So third book is another young adult romantasy through Joy Revolution. So same publisher.
Yeah.
And it is basically about a traveling circus. It
Mm-mm.
follows, yeah, it follows Esmeralda, who's like a wannabe fortune teller, but she wants to do more with her life. She wants to prove that she's worth something. And so in her mind, in order to do that, she feels like she needs to compete to be the next lead act in this magical carnival. And then all of a sudden, a young man from her past shows up and makes her think otherwise about, kind of this pitch is going haywire.
No,
He
I
makes
love
her
it.
realize, thank you. I think this is my first time saying this out loud, but he basically makes her think maybe that this magical carnival isn't as magical as it seems. So there's some deviousness, some darkness, some bad things happening behind the scenes in this carnival. So that is Carnival Fantastico in a nutshell.
It's
And it's coming
glorious.
2026.
That's going to be
Got a
here
little,
before we know it.
yeah, yeah.
And the pages that I read, maybe they were early ones, but damn, I was obsessed. I am obsessed with this concept. I'm obsessed with these characters. And as I listen to you discuss it, I can't help but think it ties right back to what we were talking about with Abigail today about finding your worth outside of the carnival, so to speak.
Yes,
So it's really cool that you're dissecting that in this book.
yeah.
Other
I'm
question.
dissecting my own issues.
Yes, isn't that what we do though, you
Yeah.
know?
Every new book, I'm like, what else is wrong with me?
But I mean, that's why your stories are so relatable because you know how to like cut and your characters because you give them real trauma and like real things to work through that like we're looking for in story, you know? So I'm
Yeah,
so
thank you.
excited for this one. I'm obsessed with the art that you put up. It just captures the vibe so perfectly.
Yes.
We're so
Yes. We
lucky
love
to
it.
be getting another Montoya. I'm gonna
Oh,
have a
thank you.
shelf in your. I feel like I'm just gonna make one of those alcoves. That maybe that one can be Montoya alcove. So you better
Yes.
keep writing. I want to fill my alcove. If that's the mission statement, fill Melanie's alcove. It sounds
That's my
kind of
new
like
mission in life.
X-rated though.
My new purpose.
Yes. But I wanted to ask, like, now that you're at this point where you've got your third book coming out, is there something that stands out to you through this like these last few years that you kind of like either wish you knew before or like a tip you want to share for our listeners or something like is there something that you're just like, oh, I wish I knew that or I'm so glad I learned that?
Hmm. I mean, I think, and it feels like every podcast we've done,
Mm,
we always talk about that, but like building the community,
yeah.
building people around you that are there to like lift you up when you're
Mm,
feeling at your lowest. I think that is probably the most important thing is like having those people that understand all of the
yeah.
hardships that we go through. Yeah, I can't imagine what the journey would look like if we didn't have this podcast. We didn't have each other. I can't
Mm,
freaking imagine. I don't want to know.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I think that's it for me. And also like you're always gonna, again, like what Abigail touched on, like you're always gonna kind of compare yourself, even though you don't want to, even though we probably shouldn't, but that's always gonna be there. And
Mm,
so I think again, you said this was like being gentle with yourself
yeah.
and like taking care of yourself. So yeah, pretty much everything you and Abigail were talking about.
It felt so
Melanie,
refreshing that she like brought that up because I think
yeah.
sometimes the instinct is to hide those parts of ourself completely. But again, like going back to what I said at the start, the nuance of things, the growth we experience is not, there's no switch you flick with or any of this. And like you can fall back to old patterns or whatever, like, and then you work your way back up, whatever it is. Like it's a process. There's not this straight
Yes.
line or switch that you flick and suddenly you're this adjusted, perfect human. Like we live and
Yeah.
learn, right?
That's right. That's exactly it. And you keep listening, listeners, because Melanie comes up with a fabulous and not anthology, again, metaphor for what we were talking about. So yeah, keep listening and let's read Abigail's bio because she had so many amazing, awesome things to say. So
Yes.
yeah, I'm excited for everybody to get to hear
Do you
both
have
of
it
you.
there? Because I do
Yeah,
not.
I do.
Okay,
I
off you
do.
go.
Okay, off you go. Abigail O'Bryan writes fairy tale inspired stories for teens and the young at heart, filled with curses, adventures, and happily ever afters. When not writing, you can find her playing D&D with her friends or plying them with experimental baked goods. I kind of love that. Trying to do entirely too much in her garden and just enjoying hanging out with her favorite people, her husband and 2 children. In their century-old house in the shadow of the Wasatch Range, that's a period there. Iron Rose is her debut novel.
Listen, it was a tricky bio. You did great.
Yeah, the period, like it, yeah, yes. Thank you.
I
I
meant to
appreciate it.
ask her about the house, but we got so chatty and yeah, no regrets. I love those chats where we just kind of throw away the questions and just dive straight into dissecting life and the meaning of things and trauma.
Yes, our favorite things to talk about.
Yeah, and now I'm singing in my head, these are a few of my favorite things.
Yes, trauma.
When the trauma bites, when the queries sting, when I'm feeling imposter syndrome, I simply remember my writing community.
And then I don't feel so bad. Oh,
Oh,
the
that was
shake, the
beautiful.
chest shake.
I got into it. It's gonna cut us off any second, but what a glorious place to leave. We need to write the full version of the writer favorite things. My gosh, that could be our
Yeah.
next promo reel for the pod. Are you
Oh,
game?
oh,
You can
yes.
each
Oh,
sing a few
geez.
stanzas, write a few stanzas, and we'll do a reel. It's happening.
It's happening.
People need to hear your beautiful touring honed voice from your
Yes.
ministry days.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hello. Oh, I love your lipstick.
Thank you.
Yes, it's very Iron Rose-esque.
Yes. I'm super excited. I don't know. I feel like this is probably getting in the way.
Are they
Look at these
roses?
earrings. I'm
Stop.
so excited.
Those are gorgeous. Are they roses?
They are roses. And my birthday is in December, and my sister got these for me for my birthday. This is the first time I'm wearing them because I told myself I wouldn't wear them until like launch was really happening. And I'm very, very excited to finally be wearing them.
It's your Iron Rose debut of the earrings. I love that.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
What
for
an
you.
honor. Yes, what an honor to be blessed by the earrings.
It's so hard to wait though when you get something like that to just be
I was
like,
really proud of myself.
yeah, you did well.
Yeah. No, those are super cool. And I love like the entire look. It just feels right. Yes.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Well, welcome. Honestly, this is really, really fun, really exciting just to chat with you and for our listeners to learn all about you and your book, which I had the pleasure of reading. Gosh, I don't even remember what month, when that was, but it was a pleasure either way. Yeah, time just doesn't feel real anymore, I don't think.
Yes. Yeah, I feel that. There's been a lot of like day of the week blindness for me recently, where I'm like, I truly couldn't tell you what day of the week it is.
That's
That's real.
real. I
Yeah.
sometimes have to Google what year it is. I'm not gonna lie. More often than I care to admit, actually.
Well, Melanie, you might have gone too far with that one.
Listen, some of us, I mean, I could just look at my phone, obviously, but no, I don't know. Sometimes I just blank. I'm like 22, 23, 24, 87.
Yeah.
No.
If you're not like journaling, like, in school, you had to put the date every single day on every paper. So it was like 9 times a day. You were like writing the date, the full, like with the year and everything. And like, if you don't journal, then when as an adult are you ever just like, let me just write down the date?
Thank you.
She's coming through for you right now.
It is true. If I was writing down the date every day, I would know the date, Angela.
Maybe that's my thing. Like I'm constantly writing dates. I just every day I'm
See?
just with my little quill and my little
I
inkwell
knew
and just
it.
scrawling the dates. Well, anyway, we're happy to have you on this date.
Yes.
In particular, we're very excited to have you on. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yes. My name is Abigail O'Brien, and I garden too much, but not like super successfully. Um, I love playing D&D, basically like all the nerdy things I really enjoy. And I'm coming out with a book finally, at long last. It's been over 10 years in the process. And so yeah, so my book Iron Rose is coming out and it feels huge. But I will say that because it took so long, I would not say that it's part of my identity. In some ways, it's like super close to me. And in other ways, I had to just like let go of this idea that like that part of my identity was like being an author or something, because I was like, yeah, it kept not happening. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I need to figure out how I can survive apart from writing. And I did. And I feel like that was actually really grounding for me as I've gone into this process, because even though I really wanted it and it's super important to me, I do feel like it's not connected to like my sense of self in the same way as it was when I was younger. And so I'm super grateful for that.
Yes. Coming in hot. I freaking love that. And it's very relatable. Like, I only recently just got an agent after like 8 years of querying. So, like, yes, I am here for starting at this level because it's so true. It's like, yeah, we see the books come out, but like, so often I am hearing every person I talk to has like a 10-year journey in some way or another. And it's what a valuable thing to have like, I mean, yeah, it sucks at the time, but I think being able to like separate yourself before everything gets hot in the kitchen is so magical and like probably rare in a way, because now you're already grounded for like what's to come. So I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, congratulations. I'm so excited for you, Melanie.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know. Every single time, it always makes me happy to think about it.
Yeah.
I want to touch back on that though. Like,
Mm.
what did you do to sort of separate that? Because truly being a writer is such like you're just in your head, you in this journey, and like it can become a part of you and like how you base your self-worth on. Like, what did you do to sort of like find your way out of that and like feel whole outside of authordom?
Well, I wouldn't maybe recommend this method.
Oh, I like this already.
Well, see, what happened was I queried for several years and got nowhere at all. And I got very deeply sad enough that I was actually, um, as I was kind of thinking about like maybe putting writing away, and I was very intentional in this process of like, I'm thinking of this as like, I'm putting this on a shelf and
Mm,
I may pick it up in the future or maybe not. So I'm not saying that I'm never going to write, but I'm also not saying that I am for sure going to come back to this.
mm,
But I chose to set it aside because I kind of felt like, I don't know. I save all my drama for writing usually, but like I felt like my soul was kind of hemorrhaging.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
just from all this like disappointed hope, and not for lack of trying kind of thing.
Mm,
And yeah, I was about to become a mom and I was like, I just can't go into this new life stage that's going to require so much of me, like emotionally, and be fixated on this dream that's not coming true. And so I decided to like kind of cold turkey it, just like put it away. And I tell you, there is nothing more humbling and less glorious than being a stay-at-home mom.
mm,
People will just sort of like, at least my experience was sort of like, oh, that's so good. Good for you.
mm,
And then that was sort of the end of the conversation. I'm like, oh, I'm still a person. Um, so I think it was really through that process where I'm like, I really had to do like soul searching and digging down deep and being like, who Abigail is enough because I couldn't attach myself to anything. Like I wasn't a particularly great stay-at-home mom either. It wasn't like, oh, but now I'm a Pinterest mom. So, you know, now I can find my worth in that. It was just like, no, literally no one cares about anything that you're doing. Nothing that you're doing is cool or trendy or like impressive. And so it was that time
mm,
where it really felt like I have this deep belief that everyone matters. Um, and so it was like, how does this fit in for me? How do I matter when what I am doing, like with parenthood, you don't even get to like check off a box where it's like, and now they have learned to be kind. It's like, no, you're not just like done with that. So yeah, it was really that kind of like stripping away of everything
mm,
process um that made me kind of dig down deep. And not everyone needs like a mission statement, but what I kind of ended up with was like, for myself, I was like, my purpose in this life is just like when someone comes into my home or into my life, I want them to get whatever measure of home and family they need. And maybe that's a lot and maybe that's a little bit. Um, and I was like, I can do that anywhere with anything at any level of influence. Um, and so that's where I landed.
mm.
Wow.
I really resonate with all these thoughts, and like I love that you're just getting so deep with us and so raw. I appreciate these real conversations because that's like what we all move through life kind of searching for, isn't it? Like I think we definitely do. And depending on like the various influences in your life, you can feel like you're supposed to have like this mission or something that you do. And I think it's very similar. It resonates with me deeply. Like actually finding the joy in the most simple, what some people would consider mundane things. But no one can take that from you. If you get the
Mhm.
extreme joy of watching the wind rustle the leaves of a tree, that you would feel like from something, some great big milestone, which often doesn't feel like that in the end, right? Because so much happens once you get there. You're too overstimulated to process it at that level of like beauty in your soul. So once you like
Mhm.
see that about people, like it's everything and nothing, right? Like it's just that. So yes, more please. Thank you for this these moments that you're bringing us. I'm just putting the
Going deep.
questions away because I see
Yeah.
we don't need them today, and it's
Yeah.
my favorite episodes.
Yeah, going deep. Well, and honestly, it's something I like deal with for myself all the time where it's like I feel like this constant need to like I need these things to prove that I'm worthy. Like especially when you like when you decide, okay, I want to be a writer and you go through this long thing and it's like, oh, if I just do this thing, people are going to see that all of this work has been worth it. They're going to be like, okay, see, I get it now. 10 years later, she got the agent, she got the book, she's doing the things, so it's like this. I've always felt that constant pressure of like, okay, I've got to prove everybody that I was worth the bet. I was worth like the time. And you know what I mean? And it's this like, it feels terrible sometimes because you're just like, oh, I gotta, show them. But I love that, you took the time to like stop everything and strip everything down. And like you said, everybody's worthy just as they are. Yeah, so bowing to that statement right then and there.
Yes. And I think ironically, like after all the time passes, like the people who you thought you wanted that approval for still don't give a fuck. Like that's facts. And the people who believed in you all along when you wrote your first shitty song in the kitchen, they're still there. They're like, well, I knew it. Like, hello, obviously, Queen, you're a celebrity. Like, it's once you get there, you realize, oh, yeah, those people still don't care. And I actually don't care to impress them anymore, you know? And I think that's just part of this journey, isn't it? Learning these things in real time, my friends.
Yeah.
Well, 10-year
Mhm.
trajectory, but we get
Yes.
there.
We get there
Yes.
eventually. Well, let's touch on that a little bit, like on your journey. Like, did you always want to be a writer? I know you mentioned like you've been at this for 10 years. Was being a writer something you've always wanted to do?
Like if you asked me in kindergarten, no. But I think looking back, it's pretty clear that this was the trajectory. I tried things like science and math, and turns out I'm real bad at anything that has a concrete answer.
Yeah,
that's real. Yeah.
So I like from an early age, I like really leaned into like I read a lot and I would write. I was reminded just a couple weeks ago that I wrote a whole thing. I never shared this with anyone, but I wrote a whole thing that was Teen Titans fan fiction in middle school. 100%.
Yes.
So the writing has been there for a long time. And then Iron Rose, I started in my office aid periods in high school,
Wow.
like on the like chunky desktops, and I had like this little USB drive.
Yes.
And so it's like, well, all of the like wrestling team, it was like the rest of my office aides were like eating donuts. I was like,
I love that.
oh.
Let me just go back to Teen Titans for a second. Did you
Yeah.
What was the fanfic like? Were we shipping anybody in the cast of Teen
Okay,
Titans?
so what happened? I don't remember what this group was, but I was like, what Teen Titans really needs is a group that's basically like the opposite, where it's like there was like basically like a rival superhero team that I was writing that were like mostly girls. And so it was like Robin, and I don't remember what the girls I wrote were called. But like the main girl from there like would like butt heads and like try to get places first. And it was that.
I love that. I'd read that.
It
I
sounds
really would.
pretty good.
If I could find that flash drive, I might share it with you. I would look at it first. But the likelihood that those files still exist, pretty unlikely.
Yeah.
Alas.
The world will never know.
Yeah.
Only through the podcast, listeners.
Yes.
I want to ask, so it sounds like your publishing journey was long and winding. Is there something that like stands out to you as like, I don't know, like the hardest part or the part that you feel like you triumphed over, or what stands out to you?
In the actual writing process or the publishing process?
Publishing, like querying,
Mm,
submission, all
yeah.
the that
Man.
heaviness I felt. I was like, we don't have to go there. We don't have to go there.
I mean, I think it really was like there were some years there where I was querying a bunch and just the like no bites. Just like I wasn't getting requests for page. It was like literally nothing. Most of the time, it's like people didn't even respond. And let me tell you,
Yeah.
when I was sending out endorsement requests and I got emails back from agents right away, I was like,
They do that?
this feels so healing. It turns out it's not just a void.
Oh my God, I fucking love that's so relatable. Like just that feeling of like, is my internet working? Are they getting to them? And then when you're actually communicating, you're like, no, they're there. They respond from the voice.
They're real people, turns out. Yeah. Yeah. And then I'd say like in the publishing journey more like now is kind of this combination of like, well, I think really it's comparison ultimately. Like, because we're all trying to figure out what we're doing and how to be successful. And like, you can't do that in a vacuum. And so even though we're trying not to like compare ourselves, we like kind of need to, just to understand what's necessary. And for me, what's the biggest struggle right now and has been since I signed the contract is basically, do I actually deserve a seat at the table? And like, what do I need to do to keep it? And that, I don't know, there's a lot to sort out in that I haven't yet. Because I think part of it is Iron Rose took me a long time to write. And then I'm looking, like now that it's getting published, I'm looking at these other people in the industry and I'm like, most people are turning in their edits for a second book when this book is being released. And where I'm sitting right now is I don't have a workable first draft on my next project. And what I have been really trying to sort through, both on like an emotional like truth level and also just like a business level, I'm like, okay, I want this to be my career. Is it reasonable for me to claim this as a career and act like it's a career and invest in it like it's a career when I can't turn around and churn out books like other people can who do this as their career?
You know what, though? I feel like that comparison thing in this point, this is where it lets you down. Because I actually agree with you 100%. It's like such a weird mix, isn't it? Of like not wanting to compare yourself at all. But I love that you brought that up because we really do need the network and need a bit of comparison to know, hey, I'm not coming to the party dressed as Slutty Devil because it's a wedding, right? But maybe in that same way, now that you dressed up for the wedding and you made it into the wedding, you don't have to be the girl dancing on the dance floor nonstop till she passes out. You can be the girl in the corner sipping your wine and thinking about life. Because I think that's the thing. Like you made it, you did the thing, but there's no like real. I know that like publishing as an industry wants us to feel that way, but ultimately you can only do what you can do. And what I think anyone who's hungry enough to work as hard as you have to want that seat at the table fucking belongs there. And I think we all see it in each other. And at a point you're like, I'm not sitting down to eat my fucking meal until my friend is sitting eating with me. Like I think at a point we recognize those people in publishing who are like, I want to do this. I don't know how. And I don't know if my abilities match what they're asking, but like I still feel it, So I don't know if that's helpful to you, but that's kind of how I try to look at it lately when comparison is good in elements, but yeah, in that way, I think just be nice to yourself. It's hard.
Yes. I
It's really
love
hard.
that image though. That's like I like think in like metaphors just
Yeah,
in normal life.
me
And
too.
so that's really helpful for me. Thank you for that.
Oh.
That was really good. That was fabulous.
Oh my
That
gosh.
was good.
No, I
did
just, we're
good.
all so bloody hard on ourselves. Like,
Yeah.
I'm always going to say the thing because we're all working through it. And I've been lucky enough to have a therapist. So, like, if you can say the thing to, like, just like help each other because it is really hard. And I can so, like, feel that feeling of, like, should I be pouring as much as I am into this? Is it okay? But, like, what I realized is if you can, do whatever you can. In that regard, it's not helpful to compare to anyone. If you have the ability to do less, look after yourself more, work harder at something you're passionate about, just go for it, Like, why not? So anyway, I love
what Melanie just said. I agree.
Should we just have like a spin-off podcast that's like writer therapists where we all just like talk about the things that no one ever talks about the writing process, and everyone cries and then we say bye?
I mean, that is pretty much this podcast.
That's why I love it so much. Legitimately. I didn't want to be like the awkward stalker person, but I also was like, oh, I'm so glad I get to be on this podcast because I want to be friends.
Yes.
Well, you're family now. It's
Yes.
a Persuasion family, and you're part of it.
Love it. I love it.
Oh, I love this. I'm still like reeling over what Melanie just said, but yeah, it's pretty good. Okay, I want to go back to your 10-year writing journey.
Yes.
Keep reeling us back.
I want to go back and dig in a little. No, but I do want to know, like, when did you pick up the book again? And what was the process for you from picking it back up to here we are now? We're about to have a book out in the world.
All right. Once upon a time, 20-year-old Abigail went through a really bad breakup and then went to Scotland.
Oh,
to Scotland.
Scotland.
Okay, I'm obsessed with this story already.
Where she made 2 other American friends and would write, and she would explore Edinburgh in different cafes with her little writing group that she had created. And that's where the bulk of Iron Rose really came to be. And at one point, one of these other girls knew some. I mean, she's not a real royalty except for in her heart. She knew a jet-setting princess who just happened to be in Scotland on her way from Asia to somewhere else. And she dropped in. We connected. Fast forward 10 years. That said jet-setting princess, who has held a candle for Iron Rose, I mean, like you wouldn't believe. Like whenever I couldn't do anything, she was like, she still just believed in it so much. So said jet-setting princess calls me up, and I thought that she was stranded at the Salt Lake International Airport because like we're most of the time we're not even in the same country, so like we don't call each other really. So I pick up this phone call ready to hop in my car and drive up to the airport, and instead she tells me that there's this cute little new publisher and she felt like they would just be like perfect for Iron Rose, and maybe possibly she had already pitched it to them and they wanted it.
Yes.
Yes.
So I had someone who came into my life
Mm.
over a decade ago because of a writing group that I had started who so deeply believed in my story. So I went from, 0 to 60, or like more like like 0 to 120, because I told her, I was like, I sent over the manuscript. I was like, okay, yeah, okay. So like take it. I remember I hung up and then I just laid on the floor and I could just feel like the door opening in my heart, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're all still there. All of my dreams are still there, 100%. Like, I thought that maybe I didn't care anymore until someone told me it was possible, and then it just whew. And I have worked, I mean, my absolute ass off for the past year and a half, ever since I got that phone call, because I'm like, I'm not wasting this. Like this was literally divine intervention. And like if this came to my doorstep, I am gonna do everything that is possible, that's in my control, to help it succeed, because like I've waited too long for this, and I would not have put in as much effort if I hadn't had to wait so long.
Mm.
So that's
Yeah, that's it right there, though. That's what separates like the wheat from the chaff or whatever. It's like ultimately, there's probably more people than we can count who have the same experiences and decide, no, they're done much earlier, because a lot of people have these dreams, but I think there's so few that like are stubborn enough to be like to keep giving it a go. Publishing is like
mm-hmm.
a petulant boyfriend sometimes. And you just like, do you give him another chance? But we see the hope. We see the hope that this one is gonna change and it'll treat us like the dream partner. That's a terrible example, but
You went too
One,
far.
yeah, if it's a toxic relationship in real life, everybody run.
run, run.
Yes, but in books and the bookish world, here we are.
Yep. Yep.
This is our dark romance right here, is
Yes.
publishing. That feels real. Well, thank God for like jet setting princesses.
Yeah.
I mean, hell. But that's something like Melanie and I continue to come back to, is the community that you build, during this journey. And it's not, we're not like building relationships for those things like, oh, they'll hook me up with this, but you're building these relationships and these friendships, and of course those people are going to help pull you up, and you're going to do the same. And that's like, the writing world is huge but also very small. And so like,
Mm.
the network is networking. The network is out there at all times. And so like, for you to get this opportunity, I think is just so beautiful. And like the fact that all your hopes and dreams like just like bubble to the surface is so beautiful. And truly, I'm so thrilled for you, and like and excited for everybody to read this book. But speaking of the book,
Yeah.
which again, as I mentioned, at some point I got to read this beautiful book and I loved it. But can you tell the readers a little bit about Iron Rose?
Absolutely. It is a dark YA reimagining of Beauty and the Beast. If you ever looked at Hunger Games and Beauty and the Beast and like thought you should have a baby, then good news. It's here. It's called Iron Rose. Um, Even though it is fantasy, the dystopian vibes are strong, as is the female lead. um, and it's really, I mean, it's like an epic war story with tender romance and um, a much more destructive curse. And there's a bloodthirsty tyrant and rebellions and all sorts of stuff. But I think now, looking back on it, um, my favorite thing about Iron Rose is that it follows someone who is strong for other people and doesn't really have another option. Like she has to just keep going, even though she's like tired in her bones. And like one of the probably gonna tear up. One of the best things that I think I've ever heard was someone like an ARC reviewer um said that like she resonated so much with Lydia about like how often as I am gonna cry. Okay. Often as women, we just have to keep going, you know, like whether or not things are fair, whether or not um like we can really do it or not. Sometimes and a lot of times we just have to pull it out of somewhere, even if the somewhere is a void. Um and yeah, this reader just said that she felt like so seen and kind of healed through like Lydia's own journey. And that was the most like, yeah, if people can be entertained, then great. And if people can also walk away feeling like maybe they understand a part of themselves a little bit more while also being entertained, like that's so I think Iron Rose can potentially offer that to you.
That was so beautiful. And isn't that what we come to story for? I think to like find those parts of ourselves that we either haven't yet or we lost somewhere along the way. And like when you see it in story, it's like there's no one but you and the page, you know? There's no one to impress. You can like actually dissect the thought, and yeah, characters really help us do that. So I'm so excited for your amazing book. What are you most excited about for the next part of things?
Uh, my launch party.
Oh yeah, baby.
I have been like, there's so much like marketing and stuff where I'm
Mm.
like, I'm tired. I don't know if I want to do this. But as far as this actual launch party, I have two older sisters who are fabulous and they have coordinated so many weddings and this kind of stuff. And they just truly have like taken it off my plate and it like it feels like a wedding to me. You know, like people will talk about how like they wish they could go back to their wedding and just hang out with everyone and like really soak in the event and
Mm.
the people and the relationships and the fun instead of like the stress of like,
Yeah.
oh, this is a new life stage of committing my life to this person and all that kind of stuff. And it feels like that. I have like, I mean, I don't have people flying in, but I do have people from so many different circles. I have friends who didn't even know that I wrote because of when the friendship started, you know,
Yeah.
things like that, where I'm like, there's so many people who are coming together for this just to celebrate. And I'm like, if I don't talk about Iron Rose at all on my book launch day, like that's actually fine. I'm just so excited to get to like just have a good party with like a bunch of my like adult friends. That just doesn't happen. So I am
Yes.
I'm like really excited about that.
Yeah.
And you deserve it. You deserve to celebrate this and yourself and all the good things. And it makes me happy that so many people are coming to celebrate you too. I mean, you can't beat it. Well, I see we have 3 minutes left. So I want to get to our favorite question, which is, do you like me or Melanie better? No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding, but tell me later. Tell me later.
I'll make a Venn
Obviously.
diagram.
Okay, but the question is, looking back at all you've accomplished, what advice would you give a younger version of yourself before you started this journey?
Oh, I would tell her about rejection and how agents are human. I think I really only came to this realization like very recently, where I was like, oh, agents are people with like opinions and preferences. Like they're not some sort of like impartial gatekeeper to the publishing industry. they're just like people who are like, that doesn't sound interesting. But that doesn't mean that like there aren't readers for it. And that doesn't mean that like it's not good. And that doesn't mean that someone else won't want it. So I think just because I hadn't interacted with agents at the beginning of the process, it felt very much like, well, and it was very impersonal. It's like, you send emails into the void and like most of the time they don't respond to you. So I think mainly that. The other thing is just connections, like that they're important and like do it because you never know. Like you never know what's going to be the thing, but also like you don't know when you're going to be that person or like you're going to give that encouragement or that like recommendation on a draft or like whatever the thing is. You might be the person who changes someone else's trajectory in a positive way, hopefully.
Yes. Well, we are so thrilled for you, so excited. We're going to be behind the scenes screaming for you. Yeah, it's going to cut us off at any second, but thank you so much for joining us and just like laying down the beautiful, magical knowledge. You're truly a bright light. So thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited for our listeners to hear this. And yeah, before it cuts us off, thank you so much. And we're cheering for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Party time.
Party time.
I'm so excited.
Yes, enjoy that party. Please spam the gram because it's sounding very lush and I wish to see.